The headlights on the highway. What up? It is Bones, and in this video I'm going to finally do the final wave of the Mattel DC Multiverse collection. Now, I've gone through a couple of waves before this one, and it was to get out of the way a bunch of figures that I had in the package, all to come down to the fact that I want to make a Mattel shelf where I have all my Mattel Multiverse figures. So I did various waves. I did the Ninja Batman, I did Lobo, I did Clayface, and we've come now to the final wave, and that would be the Killer Croc wave. Now, this was a bittersweet wave because it was a Batman themed wave, and it was the final wave. Now, before, and the Collect and Connect figure was Killer Croc. Now, before we get into the figures, I do want to talk a little bit about Mattel had a pretty good run. Of course, years back, they started with the regular Batman lines, and then they moved on, of course, to DC Universe Classics, which I have my complete collection loose right here behind me. And they went through a couple of offshoot waves like Batman Legacy and DC Signature Series, where they were still using the same bucks and the same molds, but giving us characters that we never got in the DC Classics line. Till finally they moved into the Multiverse. Now, I have to say, even though I was a rabid collector of DC Universe Classics, and even most of the things after that, I never really got into DC Multiverse until after, like, a lot of the waves had come out. I just lost the enthusiasm, and a lot of the waves were like movie waves, like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Justice League, and that just kind of like killed it for me because I'm not a big live action figure guy. I like more comic book accurate ones. It all depends. I mean, I do have a couple of live action figure stuff, but not much. But I digress. Once Mattel went through their waves, they got to the point where it was the final wave. And I think the saddest part to me was that they still had one wave left that they were going to release. And I'm not sure if the Joker from Ninja Batman was going to be the Build-A-Figure or if he was going to be just a figure. But he was in there, and we never got him. And I think, I'm not sure, but the Build-A-Figure might have been Mammoth, which was another like prototype that they built but they never released. And in that final wave, there was just some awesome figures that they were going to release that we never got to get our hands on, which was like Simon Baugh's Green Lantern, the Flashpoint Aquaman, which was one I really wanted. They had a Hawk Girl in there. A different Riddler figure, a Black Canary. It was just like tons of figures that I kind of was like looking forward to picking up, because by this time I had like gotten back into like collecting the Multiverse figures, and it just happened to be that around that time they released the final wave, and then that was it. They never released any of the other figures, and it was pretty sad. So this was the final wave in the Mattel Multiverse series. It was a Batman themed wave. Some of these figures I've actually never opened up and had in my hand, but some I have, so I'll let you know which ones those are. Let's get into it. First up, we had a new version of Tim Drake Red Robin, which is kind of a Robin offshoot. Uh, you know what? This is the first time that I've actually opened this figure. I've never had one in my hands. And this is like really like a really nice figure. I mean, the head sculpt looks pretty cool. Looks pretty like, for some reason, realistic, even though it's a comic book style. The cape is pretty nice. I mean, the collar of the cape. He does come with some accessories like some extra hands and the staff, the bow staff. His Robin symbol is like two R's, which is like unique to this figure. But what I really, and then you go down and you got that bright canary yellow belt, which is pretty awesome. But what I'd really like to get into with these is that at this time Mattel was building the figures and they had no pinholes. Just like you see here on the elbows. And even though when you bend the elbow, it kind of like breaks up the sculpt a little bit, but there's no pins. So it's, you know, it's the greater of two evils. I mean, there's no pinholes, but it kind of breaks up the sculpt. And even on the upper arm, there's a bicep swivel. Shoulders move around pretty good. Wrists actually don't just swivel, they actually bend front and back, which is pretty awesome. Moving down the legs, and you got these really cool shin guards and knee pads and boots. Now here's the same thing, there is no pin. There's no pins in the knees, even though they're double jointed, and there's no pin in the ankle, even though it has a little bit of ankle rock. So they were like really hitting their stride with these figures, and it just happened that they lost the license, which, like I said, it was a good thing because we never would have had now McFarlane Multiverse. But I really was starting to like these figures with no pinholes, ankle rocker, double jointed knees. But they're good to have, like in the collection, because they were a part of the Mattel, you know, toy line. And there's some of these are actually really, really nice looking figures. The sculpt, awesome. I'm really digging his cape. It's like nice and short, and flows really good with like the shape of the figure. He has some pretty cool forearm guards as well. Like I said, I've never actually held this in my hand, but it's looking like it's going to be one of my favorite figures. So really happy with this guy. Awesome Tim Drake figure. Pretty cool. Up next, we have the Dick Grayson as Batman. Now, this did come with an alternate head, so I did end up picking up two of these. And these were one of the ones that I already had open for the longest time. So I've had these in my collection. You have the uncowled Dick Grayson figure, and the head sculpt is pretty good. I would just say the skin tone was like a little bit darker than the Nightwing figure that they had released before. It does match like the hair, but you could just tell the skin's like a tiny tint darker. He's like more slender than the regular Batman, you know, but pretty nice figure. I mean, the same thing, you know, there's no pins in the elbows. He has a pretty sweet Batman belt that's not on any other figure. You move down, and the same thing on the legs. There's no pins, but they are double jointed knees. Down to the boots that again don't have pins, but they have rocker and pivot. They did give a cloth goods cape on here, and I'm not really a big fan of cloth capes. I mean, honestly, if the figure comes like that, I have no problem just leaving it like that because that's how it came. But even as you can see, this one, it's already like folding up on its own, even though, you know, I never touch it and stuff, but it's already like rolling up. It does have the cuts at the bottom like Batman though. But sometimes when figures have cloth capes, to me it feels like when I was a little kid and let's say you had like the old Batman and Robin figures that were just like they had no articulation, they were just plastic. And you ended up they had those like capes that had like clips and you would stick it to the back of their neck and that would be the cape. I think this even happened to me. That's why I'm remembering it. But that little yellow cape that was for Robin, like I lost it. So I ended up getting like a piece of yellow plastic and like gluing it onto the back of Robin. And so now instead of the original cape that was like hard plastic, now it was just like a piece of, it might even been like just a piece of a t-shirt or something. And it really like took away from the value of the figure. It's just like cheap looking. So sometimes I get that feeling when they put these capes on. I mean, you can't really get no stylized looks because they're just hanging. And with an actually sculpted cape, at least it has like a look that it's going for. But these, I mean, pretty cheap, Conehead. But it is what it is. That's how the figure came. I may end up getting another one and making a custom where it has like a regular sculpted cape because I'm sick like that. So I might do that.
God, you're sick.
Of course, on the back, one of the accessories he has is like a hanging cowl. So you put that on the back of his neck and it's like if he's uncowled. Of course, this is the Batman headed one, and the head sculpt of this is kind of weird because he has like a little smirk, which I mean that's pretty much Dick's attitude, like not really that serious. So it's not a traditional Batman head, and the thing that does that is just the little smirk that he has on his face, which is pretty hilarious. But of course, like I always say, if they have two head sculpts, I end up getting two figures so I could display each one. Usually I do. But pretty nice slender Batman. He's perfect for up there on the Mattel shelf. Now we're going into one of the more anticipated figures that they were going to release, and they actually released like computer generated like molds that people saw, and they were like, "Oh, this is going to be the best Red Hood we've ever that they've ever released." Sad to find out when they actually released it. I don't know why Mattel did this. I think that it was kind of like I'm not sure if it was for safety or they just like wanted to stick it to since they were losing the license, but the guns that came with the Red Hood were like molded into the holster so you couldn't release them, which was even funnier because he comes with like 4 alternate hands, 2 fists and 2 gun trigger hands. But I mean, what do you need him for if he can't even like hold his guns? I mean, you could put guns in his hands, but it looks kind of stupid because he still has these in the holsters. Besides that, another thing they messed up in is they measured out the unhooded head perfectly, like it sits right on the shoulders, but they didn't adjust for the helmet head, so it sinks really low, so it looks like he has no like negative neck. And of course, when I bought these and I found this out, I ended up buying 3 figures. So I did a custom one. I have the regular release, And then I have a figure for the unhooded Red Hood, Jason Todd. Now, my custom, which is up there, I actually fixed the head peg. So now when you change them, the head doesn't hit. The head doesn't hang like so low. It's actually a little bit higher up, so it doesn't. It fixes the part about his like shrunken down neck. Plus, I carved out the gun parts from the holsters, and then I glued them back together, and then I found guns that fit like right inside, which was like perfect. And they actually were Mattel guns, so it kind of worked out perfectly. But that's my custom figure. So I keep him separate on a different shelf. But if you take a look at the figure, the jacket's pretty cool. The bat emblem on the chest, I don't know why they broke it up down the middle, but that's not a big deal. As you move down, of course he has those sculpted guns inside of his holsters. But the main thing to look at with this figure is the no pins again. There's no pins on the knees, there's no pins on the elbows, and there's no pins on the ankles. So this is another beautiful figure. I mean, aside from the fact that his head hangs, his Red Hood is like really down on his shoulders. I mean, it's a beautiful figure. But like, it was like two strikes, the guns and then the head. There was also like a painting defect where they didn't paint the boots a different color than the pants, so that's another thing I had to fix on my custom. I actually painted the back black so it looks like he has boots on instead of, I don't know what this looks like. But again, I had to buy multiple figures, one for the Red Hood and then one for the Jason Todd head. Now the Jason Todd head is actually a beautiful sculpt. I love this head, the hair, the domino mask. It's just awesome. Actually, I prefer, when I look at the shelf, I prefer this figure than to this one. But in all actuality, I prefer my custom. And I even added on my custom, I added the white hair on his brow that they didn't put in here, but it looks pretty cool when you look at my custom and you change out the heads. That like white accent of hair is pretty cool, which is usually in the comics now when you see Jason Todd. But a pretty nice looking figure. They just had those mess ups about the guns and the head on this one, but really beautiful figure aside from those two mess ups. But glad to have these in the collection. Now, of course, McFarlane's releasing his own Red Hood, which looks awesome. Those were actually put up on pre-order at Target, and I was able to get two. So I have one to put in my collection, and then I have one to open up to display. So I'm gonna be waiting for those. They say like towards the end of November. Hopefully that comes to fruition. Love some Red Hood. Awesome character. Now the next one was one that I didn't really want, and I mean I'm gonna have him just because he's in the collection and he's gonna be on my shelf. But that was the Alfred Pennyworth figure. I don't have an Alfred figure, so it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I'm gonna enjoy putting him on the shelf in the collection. He did come with a couple of accessories, like 3 heads, which was like the butlers. I mean, the Alfreds from the movies, from the live action movies, and a white head, which I think it's like the Stranger or something like that, some kind of weird name. I'm not too sure about that character. He also came with like a serving plate and a little white, a little clear glass, and like a cowl, a Batman cowl. So I might end up using that cowl for something else, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna get too much into this figure because I mean, like I said, it's okay. I mean, the head sculpt is like from the comics. Again, no pins in the arms or in the legs. He's got those like butler shoes. It's a good figure. It's just that it's not a big deal to me to have an Alfred figure, but it's cool. I'll put him up on the collection shelf. It's not a big deal, but not too enthusiastic about that one. Up next, we have one that I have never actually held in my hands, and that is Katana, the comic book version. Of course, she has her Soul Keeper samurai sword, and this is another one that now that I've actually had a chance to look at it, I really, really like this figure. I mean, I love her mask, the way her hair hangs down, her suit is pretty cool. I mean, it has like a kind of flat black but with a little bit of shininess to it, a little bit of gloss. And then her right arm has like a shoulder pad and like a gauntlet. She did come with an extra hand, so you could either have her with two fists or with her sword holding hand. Moving down again, like once again, like like all these figures, there's no pins, so it's really beautiful. Even though it's 6-inch, at this time they were all 6-inch scale. Check out her back, pretty awesome. And like I said, now that I have her in my hands, she's gonna be one of my favorite figures up there on the shelf. So I'm pretty happy to finally get her open. Pretty cool. Katana. And actually, now we get into one of the figures that I was more anticipating in this wave, because when I was younger and I had my comic collection, I loved that Knights of the Beast with KGB Beast against Batman. And I found out they were finally going to release a figure, and I was like really excited. Now, I kind of got disappointed because this is more like a updated version. It's not like the old original Beast, which that one has its flaws as well. But he's pretty cool. He uses the same mold, the same buck as Lobo, but the head's pretty cool. Like his kind of like luchador gimp mask, kind of. Pretty cool figure. I mean, you move down again, no pins. Tons of accessories. He has two blades, one on each boot. Then he has the one for his like crazy when he lost his the story is him and Batman were like fighting each other, and he dragged Batman down into the sewers, and then like ended up in like a room where there was no escape, and he was telling Batman, come in here, let's finish it. And then Batman just closed the door on him and just left him in there, which is pretty crazy. But he lost his arm, he lost his hand, and then he replaced it with this like crazy machine gun style killing weapon. I actually have 3 of these. One I just have, but he has like I put like a blast effect on it, which looks pretty cool. And then another one I have that I took one, like I bought an extra flash from the Lobo wave, and I took the arm and I actually like fit it inside, so now he has both arms. I just need to like finish up the painting, so that way he won't have this blaster on his hand. He'll actually have 2 hands. I've actually painted the gloves and stuff, so I started working on them, but I didn't finish. But eventually I will paint it like skin tone color, and then I'm gonna redo the markings on his mask more like the old 80s KGB Beast, which is just another custom that I've been sporadically working on. So like I said, I wasn't thrilled with this release, but it's pretty cool to finally have a KGB Beast figure. So he'll go up there on the shelf pretty nicely. So anyways, guys, then we finally get to the whole bad boy of this wave, and that is the Collect and Connect Killer Croc. Each of these figures had a part in there. Now, actually, now that I'm finally holding them in my hand, this is a pretty awesome figure. I mean, great sculpt. I think he has, yeah, he doesn't have any, he doesn't have any pins either in his elbows or in his knees, or in his ankles. It's all one solid sculpt. There's no pins in there, so that's pretty cool. Of course, his mouth has articulation as well. You could open it up. Pretty awesome Killer Croc figure. I don't actually have another Killer Croc. I've been looking for the Select Scope, the DC Select Scope Killer Croc, but I haven't like pulled the trigger. But eventually I'll get one for my Select Scope shelf up there. But this guy's pretty cool. Another Collect and Connect figure for my collection. This guy's pretty awesome. Pretty cool. I'm gonna do some comparisons, take some pictures. I also will finally get all my Mattel Multiverse figures up on that little shelf that I built, and I'll do a video where I show like how I built it and show all the figures that I have on there, which is gonna be awesome and satisfying to finally complete. It's taken me probably like 3 months to do it all, but to get to this point anyways. But pretty happy to finally do it. And that's the whole thing for me about collecting, is that I make goals and I strive to do those goals, and then once I do it, I'm like, you know, satisfied of I did it. Just like my complete loose DC Universe Classics, I also have my complete in-box packaged on the wall. I'll show a clip of my whole collection here. But I have both. I have them in package, mint, in box, and I also have them loose, all the waves, which is pretty awesome. My next thing I want to do is get like a whole Build-A-Figure from DC Universe Classics. But I'm gonna have to, you know, I have a lot of them, but I'm gonna have to, you know, just start buying one at a time as I go up through the waves. But that's another goal I have eventually, you know, in my collection, to have all the Build-A-Figures from DC Universe Classics. But anyways, guys, that's it. Like I said, I'll leave you guys out with some pictures and stuff. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. See you on the next one.